There we go. Like I said, my name is Noah Barnett, and thank you guys for joining us for today's webinar hosted by Cosvox. Today, we're going to be talking about our 2019 fundraising plan and how you can plan well. But I think the interesting thing is, as we step into, or as I look back over the past 30 days, I feel as though most fundraisers in the month of December that I talked to felt like this, where they felt like they were just trying to finish out the year in a way that was somewhat positive, trying to salvage whatever 2018 really was. And at the end of the year, it can make you feel like this. This is one of my favorite movies, Cool Runnings, if you don't know the reference. But at the end of the year, sometimes I used to look over when I was running fundraising for nonprofits and be like, hey, friends, hey, Alan, you dead? Because it just feels like 2018 especially just really drove fundraisers into the ground. And now that it's 2019, we're asked to rise and shine and really tackle new goals and get back on the horse. But it's sometimes difficult and frustrating to feel like you don't even know where to start or what to do. And so in today's webinar, we are really focused on trying to reverse that, to give you an effective framework that you can use to effectively review 2018 with some perspective, but also lay out a plan that will make 2019 a year that you're just crushing it and that you can feel confident and encouraged that you have a plan to hit your goals in 2019. And so that's what today's webinar is all about. You're going to walk away with a framework that's going to help you craft an effective fundraising plan for 2019. And since we're going to be spending some time together over the next 50 minutes, I want to make sure you know who I am, who's talking, why are you even listening to me? And there's not many tips, or any reasons why, except for the fact that I spent 10 years fundraising. I spent 6 years leading growth and doing exactly this, making fundraising plans for a nonprofit to help us grow, and was able to help our organization craft a plan where we grew 10% every year, which allowed us to continue to grow, and they still are growing today. Currently, I run marketing at Cosvox, and I was actually a Cosvox customer. The nonprofit I worked with used Cosvox to really amplify their online fundraising, activate their supporters, and raise more online than we did previously. And that kind of leads me to the point, or to talk about what Cosvox is. So you joined a webinar where was hosted by Cosvox. And for those that don't know, consider Cosvox your fundraising sidekick. I remember when I was in a fundraising role, it always felt like I was fundraising by myself. And so what I saw Cosvox as was like my fundraising sidekick. It was an easy to use fundraising platform that helped me amplify my reach, acquire new donors, and raise more to do good. Plus, the Cosvox team has your back. Each customer that we have here at Cosvox receives one-on-one support and guidance from real people that are determined to help you feel confident and hit your fundraising goals. And what that really looks like is that you can use Cosvox for all your fundraising initiatives, whether it's website donation pages, fundraising sites, peer-to-peer fundraising. We just recently added peer-to-peer event registration. So think walkathons, bowl-a-thons, corporate partner events, polar plunges, beard growing contests, whatever it is, you can do those more effectively and grow those types of events and fundraising initiatives with Cosvox. And then we automatically track your supporters for you inside an integrated fundraising CRM that automatically tracks and logs fundraising engagement. We also provide you insights and metrics so that you can spot trends and take action that's going to help you drive results. And each year we help 1,600 growing nonprofits raise millions. And this is across a range of types of nonprofits. And so that's kind of where we're coming from. So as we talk through our fundraising plan today, the reason we're so passionate about this idea of crafting an effective plan, a simple plan that's going to allow you to actually drive results in 2019 is because since 2010, we've worked alongside thousands of nonprofits and helped them turn a being frustrated with fundraising to flourishing with fundraising. And that's kind of what we're going to dive in and what I hope each of you walk away with today from the webinar. So here's just a quick roadmap as to where we're headed on today's webinar. Outside of what we're going to be talking about, if you have questions or if you have comments or want me to clarify anything further, feel free to drop that in the webinar chat. I'd be happy to answer further questions or clarify anything. And if I don't get to those questions or those comments during the webinar, we're going to have a live Q&A at the end where we can dive into that as well. So as we think about 2019 planning, we need to understand kind of the world we fundraise in and know that the world you fundraise in has changed. And the problematic thing is that the world you fundraise in is rapidly changing all the time, which makes effectively understanding or even feeling confident about your fundraising plan really challenging. And so what we've done here at CauseVox, and we provide our customers this framework as well, is we've actually tried to define the age that we're living in, the age that you're fundraising in, and help make some sense as to what those really indicate. What are those shifts actually pointing to? And so we believe that we're living in the connected economy, where access to information is now ubiquitous, resulting in a shift of power from organizations to individuals, also resulting in a decreasing trust in organizations and institutions. And this is across the board, not because your organization did anything wrong, but it's just there's a lack of confidence in institutions nowadays, which is resulting again in the shift of power from organizations to individuals. And this highly impacts your fundraising strategy, and we'll dig into that a little bit throughout today's presentation. The other thing is there's a rapid adoption of mobile, which means anyone can reach anyone, anywhere, at any time. And this is really this idea of a connected economy, where we as people are connecting with other people to connect, do commerce, to share, to grow, to learn, and also to make change in our world, where your nonprofit might have been a channel for people to come together to make a difference because you provided a skill or access to knowledge that is decreasing in value as people feel as though they can come together as individuals and make a change in the world. The number of nonprofits is rising. The number of kind of just community action continues to rise. And again, it's because of these shifts. And on top of that, technology has and continues to transform and connect all aspects of our lives. But these are good things for nonprofits that pay attention to them. You know, most fundraising tools and tactics nonprofits are using today were designed to attract donors that no longer exist. However, as we think about our 2019 plan and the fact that supporters are hyper-connected, live inside personal feeds, and discover and support causes recommended by their friends, and desire to be a part of the change, not merely give to it, we can use that knowledge, that information that you have that others don't, to really craft a strategy that's going to resonate. Whereas 2018 might have felt like a fundraising fight, you can actually grow and flourish in 2019 by tapping into some of these shifts and kind of aligning it with your fundraising plan. And so these are some of the bigger shifts: digital first, always connected, increased competition for attention, and relationships and recommendations driven. At the end of the day, the core thing about the connected economy is that attention is the most valuable currency. And so if 2018 you were frustrated that you felt like you couldn't stand above the noise or you couldn't really stand out, that's due to kind of our changing landscape. And so it's not going to shift because that's a new year, but it's going to require you to shift the strategies that you think through as to how you acquire new donors, retain current donors, and cultivate better relationships with your donors, and the strategies that you're going to take in your 2019 plan. It also requires you to think more holistically about the value of your supporters, that supporters don't just provide financial resources. Your relationship with your supporters can't just be transactional. It's not just about the money that they have, but how can you tap into the influence that they have or the value of your supporters' social equity, or your supporters' time is limited and should be valued, whether given to an event or volunteer. And so how do you tap into this changing landscape? And this quote really sums up kind of the state that we're in as nonprofits, is that some organizations will thrive from this increased chaos in the connected economy. Some will be unprepared and some will merely fight it and lose. And at the end of the day, there's organizations losing every day. And so you're already taking a first step by being a part of this webinar and saying, hey, planning to effectively fundraise in 2019 is a top priority. And so I'm showing up on a webinar to try to learn how to do that well. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to tap into a framework that I used to use when I was leading a fundraising team and an organization's growth, that you can use at your organization to think well about how you're going to grow your organization. There's not a one shoe fits all as far as the strategies and tactics that you can take to grow, but there is a common framework that you can tap into to think well about growing your fundraising in 2019. So let's dive in. The first step is we're going to review last year's fundraising results. So we're going to provide you a checklist on how you can actually go about doing that in an efficient and effective way. Next, we're going to talk about how you can set strategic goals for 2019, how you can align activities with your goals, and then how do you actually outline those activities. And then at the end of the presentation, we're going to do 2 additional things that I think are going to be really helpful. So you're going to want to stick around for these. First is we're going to overview 6 strategies that your organization can adopt that is tapping into the shifts and changes in our landscape today, the world you're fundraising in, that are going to help you grow. And then in addition to that, Rob's going to come on, our CEO here at CosVox, and share a little bit more about how organizations are using CosVox to actually amplify their reach, acquire new donors, and raise more online in today's connected economy. So we're going to review this framework that gives you a framework on how you can craft your plan. We're going to leave you with 6 strategies that you could adopt in 2019 to grow your fundraising. And then Rob's going to come on and show you how you can use CosVox to actually amplify that, reach more donors, and acquire or raise more online. So let's dive in. The first thing about an effective fundraising plan is focus always wins. And the best in the business knew all about this. Steve Jobs used to talk about this as his mantra: focus and simplicity. Simple can be actually harder than complex. You have to work hard to get your thinking clean to make it simple, but it's worth it in the end because once you get there, you can move. And I believe this framework that we're going to provide today is going to help you move forward in 2019, but it does take a little bit of work. And so at the end of the day, what we want you to end up with is something that looks like this. And the most powerful reason that this is only 1 page is that it allows you to align your entire organization, your development team, or maybe just you as an executive director with your board of what the focus areas are in 2019. What are the obstacles that are going to prevent you from getting there? And what are the targets? What are we trying to accomplish? And then once you have this key document, this simple 1-page document, you can filter all of your fundraising activities through it so that you know you're doing the right things that are going to drive the results you want and are going to be effective. And then you can measure those to make sure that you're moving your organization's fundraising forward. Additionally, you're going to be able to then create a fundraising calendar where you're actually mapping out exactly what you need to do to reach your goals and the activities that you need to do to make sure that you get there. And so that's what we're going to end up with at the end of today's presentation. So step 1 is reviewing your 2018 fundraising results. And there's a few tasks that you can do if you want to add these to your to-do list, even though I know it's probably epic, but focusing in on your 2019 fundraising plan up front and laying out that map is going to help you drive more success in 2019. And so I know there's a lot of things to do typically in the new year, but it's essential that you stop and take time to look back first. So the first task to do is to review each of your fundraising campaigns from last year. Create a spreadsheet. Doesn't have to be complicated, doesn't have to be this entire audit, but just create a spreadsheet with basic information about each fundraising activity that you did. So this could include events that you hosted, peer-to-peer fundraising efforts that you did. If you participated in Giving Tuesday or another giving day, you can map that out. What was the purpose? When was it? What was the audience? How much did you raise? What did you do at year end to raise money? What emails did you send? How did that go? So these are the types of things that you're going to map out and really have a central place that says, here's the source of truth on how our fundraising actually went last year. And the thing is if you don't have the tools to know how your fundraising did last year, it's going to be really hard for you to learn year over year on how you can be more effective going forward. And that's one of the things we do here at Cosvox is we want to give you the insights to really know how effective your fundraising is going. And so if you don't have the tools today to be able to do this, now is the time to acquire the tools, Cosvox, to be able to do this well in future years. But those that have the ability to track this, this is the first step in crafting your effective fundraising plan. The second task that you want to do is dive into the details. And again, this requires you to know what your fundraising did, what were the results. You were able to track that, but not only just track a fundraising campaign results, but also track back what donors did you acquire during those campaigns, those efforts. Have these donors given before, or was it a first time? And a lot of times this stuff is buried in your database or some ancient kind of scattered collection of spreadsheets that maybe your organization has. And you really need a place to kind of centralize that. And again, that's what Cosvox helps organizations do every day. But if you have the ability to dive into the details today, this is going to be essential. So what is the total number of donors? What about returning donors, recaptured donors, new donors? Gift data, like what was your average gift amount? The number of gifts, breakdown by type of donor. Additional data points unique to activity, like how was your engagement rate? How many peer-to-peer fundraisers did you have last year? Those are the types of information that you're going to need to collect before you start diving into your plan. Melissa, great question. She asked if the slides will be available. Absolutely. So I'm going to send you the slides, and I'm even going to send you a spreadsheet template if you don't have it already, for you to be able to actually create the fundraising plan, the one-pager, and also create the fundraising calendar. And so I'll be sending a spreadsheet and the slides and the recording to you so you and your team can work on this, or maybe your board members, or you can use this as proof to say, hey, like we don't have the tools to actually effectively plan well. And so we need to make a change. We need to make sure that we know and are able to track our fundraising results. So this is kind of a quick overview of what you might end up with. So you might have a New Year's Eve email blast, you have donor engagement, you send it out, there was current email subscribers, you raised $1,500. Here's some notes about the activity, we hide this email into our Kickstart. So again, this is gonna take a little bit of work, but the goal is that by doing the work up front to know how well you did last year, there's two things that you're gonna gain. One is you're gonna know exactly what worked and what didn't last year. And two, you're gonna be able to have one source of truth on whether you should do something again, or if you should double down on something that really worked. Because a lot of times in nonprofits, and it happened to me in meetings, I'd be sitting in a meeting and the entire hour-long discussion, maybe hour and a half long discussion, is just about everyone's opinion on what they think we should do based on no data or no background. And so again, if your organization wants to drive success in 2019, you really need to get a handle on what was successful in 2018, what worked, what didn't work. So then you can make the changes you need. And a lot of times your organization might have only had 1, 2, 3, 5 fundraising activities. And so this will be a little bit easier for you because you can really map that out. And that's a great conversation to have with your board, especially if you're a solo fundraiser, or maybe there's 1 or 2 people and you're always working with your board or working against your board in a lot of ways to try to drive fundraising results. This is going to be really effective for you to be able to streamline communication and get clear on how well you're doing and what you can do better in 2019. So the task number 3 is to consider these questions after you've gathered this information. You really want to compare each of your fundraising emails or fundraising efforts to one another. What sets your most successful ones apart from the others? Why do you believe this worked versus other ones that didn't work? What went wrong? What went right with various fundraising efforts? And asking those key questions is going to be crucial. And the thing is that as you go forward, it would be best practices to really do these reviews after your fundraising efforts throughout the year. So at the end of the year, you're just putting those together so that you can really plan effectively for the next year. Which types of fundraisers have the highest ROI? The biggest revenue suck and time suck that I've seen most nonprofits do is by running large scale events that they're handling manually and they're not able to really track the effectiveness. However, at the end of the day, it feels as though those raise a lot of money. But the question becomes is, could you have invested more money in other areas? Were there other activities that you did throughout the year that worked better when you look at the return on your investment? And it has to be an investment of resources and time because both those things are limited. And so when you're doing this analysis, it's good to think, how much time do we invest? How many resources do we invest? And going forward, you'll have a map of that because that's what this framework is going to really provide you. But thinking about it previously might be a little bit more difficult if you didn't have an effective 2018 plan, which looking at the numbers of kind of how satisfied people were with their fundraising plans, I can see that everyone was either average to, didn't failed miserably, as one person said. The last task you want to do is kind of reviewing your fundraising is calculate your donation metrics. And so this is something that when we sit down with our new customers, we really want to understand where they're at today. What's their number of donors? Who are their donors? What are average gifts? Because our goal here at CauseVox is to work alongside that nonprofit to help them drive results with CauseVox's fundraising platform to increase those numbers. Or maybe tap into the fact that they have a large number of major donors that give to them regularly, but they're not tapping into the social equity that those large donors had. And so they can actually run a campaign in CauseVox to be able to engage those. We saw a lot of organizations do that in the past year with their volunteers. They had 200 volunteers and they asked them to give up their time. But then when they ran a fundraising campaign where they used peer-to-peer to activate those supporters to go out and raise money on their behalf, they saw huge results. And they saw engagement or kind of a level of delight or happiness with their volunteers go up as well. And so again, that's why these donor metrics are important. They're not just numbers or vanity metrics. They're actually an opportunity for you to see where maybe there's untapped resources that you and your organization can take advantage of in 2019. And again, we're going to talk about some strategies at the end that I think will help you grow in 2019 that you could use. But having this information is going to help you better evaluate which one you should invest in first and what might work better for you and your organization. And this is the kind of stuff we want to work with, like here at CauseVox, when we work with our customers, we're working one-on-one with them to really understand how we can help them grow and how they can use CauseVox's platform to drive further success. So this stuff is super important when you're thinking about 2018 and how that's going to impact 2019. The last task in reviewing 2018 is that you want to gather all your insights to help you plan for this year. What was your overall fundraising growth? Did you meet your goals? What were your goals? What drove this? What campaigns were effective? So you're going to have a summary of sorts. We're going to really drive home some simple conclusions and some simple yes, no, like what worked, what didn't, what was confusing, what was missing, and what areas present the greatest opportunity in 2019. There may have been item or fundraising activities that you did in 2018 that you could really scale up if you had the right tools or if you really invested more time into really bringing that out. And so you want to make sure you note that. Or there may be new areas where you realize that your fundraising activities aren't working. And so you need to see or seek out new fundraising activities that are working, that nonprofits are using to grow in today's connected economy. Things like DIY peer-to-peer fundraising or monthly giving programs, those are some of the key tactics that we'll talk about at the end of today's presentation. But just to kind of preview, that's what you're looking for here. Now, the second step of creating an effective fundraising plan, now that you have all of your results, you've really done kind of a post-mortem on 2018, you have all the data you need to really make good decisions. Whether this is you working by yourself because you're a solo fundraiser, you're a CosVox customer and you're working alongside your success manager, or you're working with your board to try to showcase to them, what we can do effectively this year. What decisions do we need to make? What are areas we need to invest in? Maybe you don't know. And so looking at a way to invest in something that's going to help and really drive results forward. Or maybe at the end of the day, you didn't do many fundraising activities, and it kind of reveals that that's why you didn't hit your goals. And so you have all that information, and now we're going to set strategic goals for 2019. And strategic goals aren't just your board saying this is what we should raise this year, but these are strategic goals that are based on realistic aspects of your mission and what you need to accomplish your goals, and the resources that you're able to dedicate to your efforts. And this is why, we come alongside here at CosVox and help smaller fundraising teams frequently. And that's why we joke that consider CosVox your sidekick, because we really want to help them scale up their efforts, because time and resources are typically limited and goals are usually too far out that there's no realistic way for them to fill the gap, especially with the budget that they have. And so strategic goals are really taking into consideration some of those factors. And so there's 3 specific buckets that really help you drive growth. The first one is donor acquisition. So how do you actually acquire new donors? And this involves, how do you reach new donors? How do you come up with new fundraising programs that are going to help you leverage your current supporters to acquire new donors? The second is donor retention. So how well are you retaining donors? And then the third is, how well are you cultivating the donors that you retain? And so are you increasing the investment that donors are having in your organization, or the involvement or the engagement that they're having in your organization every single year? And what does that look like? And all 3 of these levers are almost tactics for you to win the fundraising fight. So if you kind of have like a jab and a punch and a bunch of different things that you're using to win a fight, obviously everyone can tell from this that I don't have strong background in boxing because I said jab and punch. But it kind of paints this picture that you really have these 3 tools in your toolkits to win the fundraising fight. And so we're going to dive into these. But what I would love to know is, as we talk about acquisition, cultivation, retention, which is your top priority in 2019? Which one do you hope or know you need to invest in more? You can drop that in the chat pane. I'm just trying to get a pulse on kind of how much time I should spend on each of these areas as we talk about different tactics that you might. I see a lot of donor acquisition, a lot of donor cultivation, tons of cultivation, which I think is super smart. Acquisition, cultivation, retention. Yeah, so it's all over the map. And so what's interesting is, remember what you just put into the chat box, because as you map out your plan, you're going to have these 3 boxes where you're going to start to map out activities against each of those buckets. And so typically you'll have a specific acquisition goal, or there'll be a priority that you need to focus in on that you need to dedicate more resources to. So again, as you map out your plan, those focus areas are going to be ordered in a way where you're looking at acquisition, cultivation, retention, but then you're intentionally mapping out tactics that are going to help you reach those specific goals you have in those 3 areas. And so when you walk away from your fundraising plan, you should have a goal for each of these areas. So let's dive into these. First one is donor acquisition. Obviously, donor acquisition is essential for growth. These activities will include expanding your reach, outreach to new audiences, and inspiring new people to support your cause. Example acquisition goals: acquiring new donors, as many of you already said, growing your email subscriber list, because that shows that you're advancing your reach or expanding your reach. Or you might want to activate using peer-to-peer current donors to actually inspire friends to give, which is another great way to acquire new donors, which gives you another opportunity to bring people in, connect with your organization's cause, and drive results forward. The second growth lever, which when I was doing fundraising, this was the growth lever I focused in on intently because it had a huge impact on our growth. And so donor retention refers to the number or percentage of donors that continue to give to your organization after the first gift. So there's a lot of different goals that you could have here, but retention is extremely valuable and can have huge impact on how much money you're able to raise each year if you have intentional activities on this. One thing I've learned from executive directors or nonprofit leaders specifically is that everyone likes talking about donor acquisition because donor acquisition is like a sexy thing. It's like, oh, we're going to go out and do this big campaign or this big event where we're going to reach out and do this PR strategy, or we're going to do a Giving Tuesday campaign and we're going to reach all these new donors. But at the end of the day, talking about donor retention sometimes is just like hand-to-hand combat kind of stuff. And so it doesn't get as much attention because it isn't as sexy as new donor acquisition, but it has a huge impact on your growth. In the last 10 years, donor retention rates have averaged 45%, meaning less than half of the donors that you fought so hard to give to you last year are not going to give again in 2019. And so this is a huge area that we have to spend more time on and more focus on. And I love how Adrian Sargent talks about, he said, we're caught on the treadmill where we have to spend lots of money on acquisition, which most nonprofits end up losing money on anyways, just to stand still. And based on everyone's inputs from the beginning of our conversation today, like that might be why you're feeling frustrated. And so intentionally looking at how do we retain donors? What does donor retention look like? And if we see some of the trends in donor behavior and preferences, there's some key things, which I'm going to be talking a lot more about in a webinar in a couple weeks, that drive up retention. And at the end of the day, the biggest one is what Rob's quote said at the beginning, is that people want to be part of, not merely give to an organization. And so as you think about your fundraising plan for 2019, you have to keep that in mind so that you can drive results and increase your retention, which is going to ultimately lead to growth. So growth lever number 3 is donor cultivation. Obviously, this is an effort to deepen your relationship with your current supporters. This requires you the ability to know who your supporters are, what they're giving to, what they care about, and really have the insights and view and really a central profile that says, hey, this is the value of this supporter. And that's what recently we released an integrated CRM in CosVox that really focuses on this, so that you can see every activity that an individual has, and we log and track that automatically. But the biggest thing, which our team worked really hard to do, is to make sure that you not only see how much a donor has given, because a lot of CRMs and donor fundraising tools and all this other stuff says, oh, this is how much this donor's given. And they're saying, oh, here's your major donors, here's your minor donors, here's when their last gift was. But it neglects the fact that your supporters also influence other donors. And so CosVox actually tracks how much money a person has raised on your behalf through other donors they've influenced to give to your organization. That is huge to be able to know that and say, Sally helped us raise $45,000 last year and acquire 37 new donors. Like, that's something that's impactful and is required in the connected economy. And so once you see these 3 areas, you have donor cultivation, you have donor acquisition, you have donor retention, you really want to be honest in how you establish realistic goals. Like, what resources, both budget and staff time, can you devote to fundraising? And a lot of times this part's a little discouraging because maybe you're strapped for time and resources where you don't have a lot of time, and you actually probably need to have an intentional effort on your fundraising plan to streamline your administrative offices, or you need to come up with more efficient ways to fundraise or to manage your fundraising. And a lot of nonprofits see that as like an organizational optimization tactic, but that could be, we need to put this, like, we're going to acquire new donors by freeing up time that Mark sending out manual donation receipts, or that Sarah sends out, these manual thank you letters, or sends out these manual thank you emails. Whereas in today, technology would allow you to automate that. And CosVox does that as well. But those are the types of things that it's aren't as obvious as tactics or strategies that you would use to increase your fundraising, but those are also important. And so really mapping out what resources you have is essential. And with this in mind, what is your overall fundraising goal? So one of the big things is typically we start with a goal and then work backwards from there. And sometimes what ends up happening is that we actually never end up connecting those dots. And so at the end of the year, when we say, did we hit our fundraising goal? The answer is no, but we actually didn't have a plan to meet that goal. And so what I like to do is always make sure that you understand what you have, understand what worked, understand where you were, and then make realistic goals on how you're going to grow each of those different areas, and then figure out what the resulting fundraising goal would be. And then if there's a gap, that requires you to have an honest conversation with how are we going to fill this gap? Can we even fill this gap? And what do we need to do? Or maybe there's a partner that we need to bring in, or we need to change some things significantly so that we can actually reach what we need to advance our mission. And this is going to then allow you to determine specific targets for donor acquisition, how many donors you need to acquire, where are you going to go get those donors, et cetera. Donor retention. So what is your donor retention rate? And not just donor retention rate, but funds raised retention is also an important factor. So I'll say that one more time. A lot of times we track donor retention, but we miscue and don't track funds raised retention. Because at the end of the day, whether we want to or not, there is a priority that if we lose certain donors, they're more valuable than other donors. And so sometimes your donor retention rate might be really good, but what you don't realize is that you're actually losing a lot more of your funds raised each year than you should be. And so again, readjusting your time spent or how coming up with campaigns that are going to keep all of your supporters engaged will help drive up retention. And ultimately cultivation. How do you increase the average gifts that you're getting from individuals? So this is how you're going to set realistic goals. So the next step is the step that's most often forgotten. And honestly, for the first few years when I was working in fundraising, and even today when I do marketing, I tend to forget. We set goals, we make big dreams, but we don't actually make a plan to align our activities or what we're going to invest in every day to then meet those goals or with those goals, connect those dots. And this goes back to the quote by Steve Jobs and something that we push pretty heavily. Megan, who's on our content team here, sent out an email about it on Monday where she was talking about focus and how focus is going to help you win in 2019. And this next step is really going to help you focus because you're going to align every activity you do to a goal. And so when you map out your donor acquisition plans, you have your targets and your goals, but then you're actually going to map out what specific activities you're going to do that are going to help you accomplish those goals. Oops. So the first step in aligning activities with goals is to brainstorm all the activities you could do to reach each of your fundraising goals. So what could you do to acquire new donors? And this is where you can dream, you can imagine what's possible, what your organization could do. Instead of just saying, oh, we did this last year, so let's do that and increase it a little bit and hope for the best. This is an opportunity for you to think, well, what are the shifts in the landscape? What have we seen work well in our fundraising? What have we seen others do that works well? This is where you can really map that out. Same goes with retention and same goes with cultivation. And then you're going to review each list of activities, your 2018 review and available resources, and to determine which activities you'll make a priority. And so as part of that list of activities, we're going to share 6 fundraising strategies at the end of the webinar that we believe can actually help you grow in 2019 because they take advantage of the connected economy and some of the shifts in donor preferences. So we'd hope that starts your list at 6. So you at least have 6 ideas on how you can move forward. But I know there's a bunch of others, and that's going to be the starting point on how you work on your plan. The next thing you want to do is finalize your plan. You want to note any obstacles or challenges you'll need to overcome to actually accomplish those activities. And the reason this is important is because it's good to be honest that, I want to do this. There's something I'm working on right now here at CauseVox as the head of marketing that is really difficult. I know we need to work on a specific area of our marketing that I'm not naturally as comfortable with or don't feel as confident in. And so I know that there's some obstacles for us to be able to do it, but I know we need to do it to be able to reach our goals that we have this year to serve more nonprofits. And so that's something that's important. And it's good to note that so you can hold yourself accountable, but others in the organization can also know what the limitations are that are going to get in the way. If they're obviously there, it's important to document them so you can come up with a plan on how you're going to overcome that so that you can accomplish the activities. The next thing you want to do is you want to set specific goals for each activity. And so if you're going to run a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign in the spring, that's a DIY peer-to-peer fundraising campaign that you're actually going to use as a way to reach new donors, it's good to set specific goals behind that. And so that you're going to launch a grassroots or DIY peer-to-peer fundraising campaign. The goal is to help reach new donors. To be able to do that, we need to activate current supporters to actually go out and advocate on our behalf. So we want to try to recruit 20 supporters to do grassroots DIY fundraising campaigns for us, with an average of each of them reaching 4 new donors, which then we're going to cultivate effectively as well. Or we want to improve our new donor welcome or onboarding that we do. So when someone gives to us, how do we cultivate them to give a second gift, or really to engage them, again, bring them in so that they feel a part of the work. And to do that, we're going to look to increase our second gift conversions by 30% within 6 months. So those are the types of things where you're actually setting specific goals for each activity that ultimately helps lead back up to your main goals in each of the 3 categories, which again is will add up to your overall goals. And then obviously review any activities from 2018 and your brainstorm that didn't make your priority list and add them as omissions. And so this is a new thing that's not on the current template, but it's something I think that's important that you can just add at the bottom. But there's a list of things that you're not going to do in 2019. Because what you're not going to do this year is almost as important as what you will do. Because it clarifies for everyone involved, your board, yourself, what you know you need to do and what you know you don't need to do, so that you can free yourself to focus on the things that are going to drive results towards your goal. So at the end of the day, you're going to end up with a clear plan that is going to give you a roadmap to reach your goals, acquire new donors, and drive results. And these types of activities are effective only if you turn it into an actual action plan. And so you have a map. So this is almost like a roadmap, like this is what we're going to do. This is what we need to do. And so then the last step is to really turn that into an action plan. And so this is where you actually map out when you're going to do things, who's going to do them, if there's any cost involved. So this is like the nitty-gritty side, but you can still keep it pretty simple and loose because you know things change. Where you're just mapping out, hey, here's all the activities we're going to do. We still need to map these out and showcase when we're going to do them. Typically, I do this by a quarterly basis personally, but you can also do it on a monthly basis so that you can see this clearly. And again, present this to your board or to your team so it's very clear where you're at and what you're going to do. Oops. So once you finalize this whole process, you really have 2 essential things. You have a clear map of what your goals are, how you're going to get there, what's important, what your priorities are, what activities you're going to do, specific goals for those activities. And then you have a clear fundraising calendar, like when is this stuff going to get done, who's going to do it, how are we going to drive results, what's the cost? And then this gives you a clear picture for your organization on how you're going to reach your goals. And if there's the one thing I know, regardless of whether it's a single fundraising campaign or a year's worth of fundraising, if you have a clear plan, you're most likely and more likely to hit your goals. Here at Cosvox, what we see is that when we work with nonprofits after they become customers, we want to help them create a plan that's going to help them drive success. And that's why we work with every customer one-on-one, because we want to not only provide the tools, but also the best practices, the learnings, and the one-on-one guidance to really help you reach those goals. And we can do that in 2019. And like I mentioned, if you're interested in learning more about Cosvox, and how our platform helps you amplify your reach, acquire new donors, and raise more online in 2019, Rob Wu is going to come on at the end of the webinar and give a 10 to 15 minute demo of walkthrough and really showcase how that actually works. But before we get into that and questions, I thought it was essential to not only leave you with a framework on how you can create a plan, but also 6 proven strategies that we saw our CosVox customers last year use to raise more. And I believe you can use them in 2019 to raise more online as well. And so I wanted to share those with you so that you can really kick ass this year, not to be crude, but like you really crush your goals, because it's so discouraging as someone that really, as an organization here at CosVox, we believe we want to help good flourish in the world. And when we kicked off this webinar 45 minutes ago, so many of you said that you were discouraged by last year. And so I hope that these 6 fundraising strategies at least give you a starting point to reconsider how you might approach 2019. And the plan that we went over is going to provide you a way for you to actually map out how you're going to achieve those goals and really punch 2019 in the face, just like this. And you're going to crush your goals, which is important. So we're going to dive through these pretty quickly. I'm going to send the slides to you so that you have them. And if you have questions about any of these specific strategies, feel free to ask in the questions pane, and we'd be happy to arrange time to talk through them with you one-on-one. I would personally be happy to do that. And so if any of this is interesting to you, feel free to make a note of it in the questions pane, and I will reach out and we'll schedule time one-on-one to dig into these strategies. So the first strategy that we saw last year work for CosVox's customers across big and small nonprofits was DIY peer-to-peer. All this really means is that you're creating a central place that empowers supporters to raise money on your behalf throughout the year. So this isn't running a campaign where you're inviting people to fundraise, for a certain amount of time, but this is creating a central place that whether a supporter wants to throw a birthday fundraiser for you, run a 5K, grow a mustache, or host a community event, you'll be ready. And so one organization that does this extremely well, and we also have smaller organizations as well, so don't see this as just a big organization thing, but is World Bicycle Relief. And so what they do is they invite people like Chris and Will Fortune who wanted to support this organization's effort. They were passionate about what World Bicycle Relief did, and they were able to go to World Bicycle Relief's DIY grassroots fundraising page and actually create a campaign where they pledged to raise $14,000, which was a huge stretch goal for them. But what they ended up doing was crushing that goal and almost raising $40,000 from 89 donors to provide 261 people in developing communities with mobility. And to me, the organization, World Bicycle Relief, all they really did was say, we want people to be a part of the work that we're doing, and we believe that you can help us reach new people and make a bigger impact towards our mission, and then support those people along the way like Chris and Will. And they've had thousands of people do this, and we've seen thousands of people just like Chris and Will raise millions of dollars for nonprofits last year doing DIY peer-to-peer. And so setting up a page like this is quite easy. CosVox comes alongside you, provides you the tools and best practices to do this so that you can have a branded experience where people can fundraise on your behalf with ease in 2019, and you can track all of it so that you're in control. This isn't like sending your supporters to Facebook and hoping that they fundraise from their friends and family, but this is having a dedicated place that you're in control. You see the data, you see the donors, and you have all access to that, and you can really raise more money by activating your supporters to go out and raise money on your behalf. Super essential, and we continue to see higher engagement with these types of campaigns as we look forward to 2019. But even as we see organizations that implement these strategies, they see real results. Fundraising strategy number 2 is monthly giving. And so monthly giving is a way that you can sustainably grow giving. And the reason organizations bail on this is typically because they have no way to do it, or they tried it and they feel like it didn't work, or it was too much work to manage. And what we've done here at CosVox is really help you streamline that process, make it super simple to have people sign up for monthly giving, and also handling a lot of the back office stuff like getting expiration dates automatically, and sending out requests when payments fail so people can update their credit card information, all of that to really help you grow. And what we've seen is organizations that create a community of people that are coming together on a monthly basis to do the good that you're trying to do in the world. This is a great way to keep donors engaged, feeling a part of the cause, and increasing donor retention and increasing your response rates to campaigns, so helping you cultivate donors more successfully. And this does take work, but again, if you need help doing this, CauseVox comes alongside you, provides you the tools and best practices to do this. And you see organizations like Preemptive Love with their Frontline campaign, or Charity Water with the Spring, or the Adventure Project with the Collective. There's a lot of different organizations that are tapping into this strategy because people want to come together with like-minded individuals to drive change. So that's monthly giving. The third strategy is personalized email. So email works. We see organizations that invest in email get anywhere between 3 and 360% return on their investment. There's lots of talk about email being dead, but we continually see the data that backs it up and says organizations that use email effectively continue to raise more money. And one of the ways that you do it effectively is by personalizing email. And a lot of times this first and foremost starts with segmenting and driving the context of the relationship you have with your supporters to increase the outcome of your thing. So segmenting donors based on how much they've given, segmenting donors on where they were acquired. And again, having a system that allows you to see that is essential to do this. The other thing is that email should feel human versus your organization. And so really saying, as an individual organization, we're reaching out to you and inviting you to be a part of the cause. That's going to help you drive results. And the last thing, which is underutilized, is making sure that you customize your donation pages that align with your email content. The success of your emails highly depends on how easy it is for people to take action. And so one of the things we see effective is organizations here at CauseVox, when they send out emails, they actually send those supporters to a donation page that's embedded on their website, where they've actually suggested custom donation amounts, but also reminded their donors of the impact that they can have at each giving level. And so this allows them to drive up their average gifts, but also make sure that there's an alignment between the message in the email and the message on the donation page, which improves conversion rates. So the average conversion rate's about 15%, and we see anywhere up to 200% increase to that by making sure that you're customizing the donation pages. And CauseVox allows you to do this and embed them on your website, so your supporters don't have to leave your website, go off to a PayPal page or anything like that easily without a bunch of code or reinstalling code every time or trying to get your tech IT guy to do this. It all happens seamlessly. I see a bunch of questions coming in. I'm going to dive into those during the Q&A. And if we don't have time to dive into them in the Q&A, I'll reach out one-on-one to make sure that we get your questions answered. So I see all those coming in. Really grateful that you are sending those in, and we are going to get to those in just a few minutes. The fourth fundraising strategy is partnerships. So partnerships, what we're seeing is that there's an increased desire for corporations, businesses to do more than just write sponsorship checks. And so what we see is that one of our customers here at CauseVox saw this, and what they've done is they've been able to design a campaign where their corporate partners actually invite their employees to give as part of a peer-to-peer fundraising event in support of junior achievement. And so there's one person at Junior Achievement that was able to create 25 plus fundraising pages for each of these corporations that were custom branded. So this one's for KPMG, where those businesses are then able to send out those fundraising campaigns and invite their employees to give. And they were able to do this because they're using CauseVox to be able to create these custom fundraising sites where they're co-branded really easily without a bunch of tech skills or design skills. We have a cloning tool that allows you to clone campaigns, update them, change them to however you would need, and then send these out. And so this helps you scale up your partnerships and really equip your corporate partners with value that they're seeking out so that you become more of a trusted partner in that relationship. Another organization that does this really well is World Help, where they partner with conferences so that the conferences can invite their attendees to give to a cause in partnership with the nonprofit. And again, they're using CauseVox to be able to create these custom pages for these conferences so that the conference feels like they have a co-branded effort involved in it, while the organization can still track all the results and receive all the donations in real time. Fifth strategy is crowdfunding. This is an age-old strategy, but about 40% of donors now across generations give to crowdfunding based on the recent report on fundraising engagement. Inspires giving in down months. You can create crowdfunding campaigns for various efforts that you have throughout the year, or you can create new campaigns that really helps you build a community amongst your supporters. We saw the Motherhood Collective do this really well with their volunteers. They created a May campaign where for 30 days they rallied their volunteers, their community to raise money on their behalf, and that helped contribute and grow their annual fund. Likewise, Volo City ran a 3-month campaign to, again, really increase their fundraising efforts when they previously had a hard time fundraising. And what they saw is when they allowed their supporters to come together and be a part of the story, be a part of the organization's efforts, they saw an increase in their donations. Again, this wasn't a replacement for other stuff that they were doing, but actually helped them increase and drive up their results. And the last fundraising strategy is peer-to-peer events. Events are notoriously difficult to manage, but they can be a huge value add to your organization if you have the right tools to be able to do that. So here at CauseVox, we help a bunch of organizations plan and manage and coordinate peer-to-peer fundraising events and really help them grow those efforts. One being the Chesapeake Climate Action Network, who does a polar plunge every year. They invite supporters to raise money on their behalf, like April, raised almost $4,500 just so that she could jump in frigid cold water. And so again, simple campaign, jumping in cold water, but they were able to engage April in a way where she felt like connected, and she was able to acquire 71 new donors, or 71 donors gave to this organization because of April's efforts. Not all of them were new. I'm not sure how many were new, but still a lot of help are helping to amplify that reach. Another one is Postpartum Support International, who did walkathons around the country to really engage supporters in local communities to connect with other people that support the organization. And then Mercy High School, which is a private high school, did a walkathon in their community where they engaged students and parents. And so regardless of your organization, there's a lot of different ideas on how you can do this, but you need the tools and the partner to be able to do that. And so here at CauseVox, we come alongside you to provide you, again, best practices, but the tools to be able to really streamline the management behind this as well. And so those 6 strategies, again, were DIY peer-to-peer fundraising, monthly giving, personalized email, crowdfunding, and peer-to-peer events. And all of them are going to help, or not all of them might be fit for you, but it helps you get a list of activities that you can consider as you think about your fundraising plan for 2019 so that you can drive further results. And so Rob Wu, our CEO here and co-founder of CauseVox, is actually going to come on and kind of show how this works firsthand. And so if you're interested in seeing how that actually works firsthand, you can implement some of these strategies in 2019. Rob's going to share that. Again, I'm going to send out the planning template so that you have the spreadsheet and the slides to really help you drive that success. And then stick around after Rob's demo. We're going to do live Q&A. I know questions have already come in. And so definitely stick around so that you can listen in and ask the questions that you have about fundraising in 2019. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Noah. Thanks so much for the awesome presentation on fundraising planning. Coming out of New Year's, I was thinking about one of my 2019 goals, and I have not set any of them yet. So maybe this is a solid kick in the butt to figure it out. Well, thank you guys today for hanging on with us with the Fundraising Plan 2019, our first webinar of the year. I'm Rob Wu, the CEO of CauseVox. I've been trying to solve the digital fundraising problem for nonprofits, small fundraising teams, for over 10 years. And we're doing it every single day over here at CauseVox, helping you guys equip yourself with the right fundraising knowledge to build their fundraising aptitude, as well as with our fundraising platform that helps you raise more funds, as well as retain donors. At CauseVox, we are a fundraising platform, and we like to say that we are champions for do-gooders that do. With CauseVox, you can become a fundraising powerhouse in 2019, and we can raise more together. My main goal over here at CauseVox is to help you reach your fundraising missions as well, your fundraising goals, as well as your social missions. What it really means for you is that at CauseVox, you can use our fundraising tools that are easy to use and designed for you. And you can use them to increase the conversion rates on your online donation pages on your website, or you can use CauseVox for different types of crowdfunding campaigns throughout the year in your fundraising plan. Or you can use CauseVox for some ongoing peer-to-peer fundraising or for a short-term peer-to-peer fundraising campaign as well. Many examples that Noah shared. And very lastly, at CauseVox, we help you streamline your back office by providing a fundraising CRM and also insights and metrics dashboard so you can hone in on the different parts of fundraising that you need to focus on, helping you save countless hours each week. So in addition to the fundraising tools that we offer, we also have tools that are easy to use, that are purposely simple. They're really designed for you as a small fundraising team in order to increase your donations raised, as well as to nurture and grow your donor base. Today, because we're short on time and I'm sure a lot of you want to get to Q&A, I want to focus on 3 different things on CauseVox, just to kind of give you a taste of how you can apply some of these fundraising principles and fundraising tactics for 2019, and how you can include this into your fundraising plan so you guys can go out there and crush your fundraising goals. One of the easiest parts that we've seen today is optimizing your donation pages. So with all the work that you guys do to plan for fundraising, as well as all the work that you do to set up your fundraising, your appeals, for example, one of the parts that we see to be a big hurdle is when organizations and nonprofits just send their audience and their donors to a donation page on their website that doesn't convert, that doesn't keep track of donations raised, and doesn't inspire their audience and donors and compel them to make a donation. So that's one of the things we can help you solve at CauseVox. This is the Irish International Immigrant Center that Noah shared, where instead of having a generic donation page that just looks like and feels like a white page with some numbers on it that's very transactional, you can actually inspire your donors to make a donation. So with CauseVox, you can easily create this and embed this and have it branded to your organization. And you can do this in minutes, and donors can really see what they're donating with suggested donation amounts, and then easily see what that donation amount actually helps you accomplish. So this way it compels more donors to make a donation. In addition, we do have additional features that allow you to turn one-time donors and with a check of a box, turn into a recurring donor, as well as ability for you guys to grow your donations through donation tipping, which is a way for you to cover your fees on CauseVox so that more of your donation goes to your mission. Donors can easily go through this process so you can convert them at a higher rate, and then we help you automate the back office by sending custom donation receipts to your donors so that you don't have to. This saves you about 5 to 6 hours each single week, so you can repurpose that time for your mission-related objectives. Another thing you can do with CauseVox that I know I mentioned is around donor acquisition. So this is the Polar Bear Plunge is going on right now on the Chesapeake this month. And you can easily use CauseVox for not only your fundraising events by creating a campaign site that keeps track of how much has been raised. That's the destination of your fundraising. But also you can use CauseVox for a peer-to-peer style of fundraising as well. So the Polar Bear Plunge over here by Chesapeake Climate Action Network, their fundraising team is 1.5 people, and they run this event with ease because they don't have to worry anything about the technical side. So we can easily deal with CauseVox. So you can use a template, you can customize that template to tell your story, and then you can easily keep track of how much has been raised through our platform. You can put in any type of story that you want to, really compel people and inspire your donors and supporters to take part. as well as even feature some of your corporate sponsors on the right-hand side to give them some awareness. And then very lastly, here on the bottom, you can get your supporters to easily create personal pages and share it with the networks to help you acquire new donors. So this way, you're not depending just on your Facebook channels, your Facebook audience, which are hard to reach unless you're paying for it, to boost your posts, or having to buy a list. You can just use the people you already know and the people that really love your organization, that have seen your impact firsthand, and then you can get them to create personal pages to tell their story simply, and then share it with their networks. So this way, they tap into an audience that you haven't reached in order to acquire new donors to your nonprofit. So super easy like that. You can also run other types of fundraising initiatives that are not event focused. For example, Casa Congo, they do development work in Nicaragua, and they easily have just a short-term peer-to-peer fundraising campaign where they're telling people about their impact, about their work, and then individuals can create personal pages to go out there and raise funds for Casa Congo. So super easy. In addition to some of these fundraising initiatives that are related to donor acquisition, as well as improving your conversion rates on your donation page, we also help you as a nonprofit fundraiser, marketer, or executive director to easily run your digital fundraising. So what we hear a lot is that donor databases that people use today are really difficult to use. They're hard to integrate with. It's hard to get data. Well, what we do over here at CauseVox is, instead of you having to go in there and pull a report, or to talk to Doug from IT to pull a donation data report, you can just go in there yourself, and within minutes, you can easily see how much funds you raised in January, your recent donors, all your fundraising initiatives over here as well. So you can really keep track of how you're performing when it comes to fundraising. In addition to that, we do have a community dashboard over here that allows you just to see who are your donors, their lifetime value in terms of how much they donated, as well as how much they help you raise through those peer-to-peer fundraising. And you can even keep track of their donor and supporter data, such as their address information and their email information. We also help you collaborate as well, just to help you raise more funds and really tackle and grow and nurture your contacts on CauseVox. So you have easy ways for you just to add notes to the people in your community. So super valuable over here. In addition to that, we help you save a bunch of time when it comes to your fundraising. So if I dive into our admin interface over here, let me go to kind of one of my favorite parts, which is our design editor. So a lot of times we talk to nonprofits as well, and one of the biggest hurdles for them executing on their fundraising plan is that they think they need to hire an outside web developer or an outside consultant, or find a volunteer designer in order to launch a fundraising initiative or something that's new. On CauseVox, it's different because you can just do everything yourself. You don't have to depend on anyone else. You can just put on your fundraiser hat and then call it a day. So you can easily go into CauseVox, you can customize content, you can upload logos, you can change header backgrounds. You can even customize your CTA as well, for example. And then from there, you can make some tweaks. For example, if I want to change this color of the button, I can easily do that in minutes instead of having to dive into HTML or CSS or anything complicated like that. So super easy. And the very last part over here that I want to share is that in our CauseVox admin interface, not only does it help you with reporting and growing your relationships, not only does it help you with setting up your fundraising initiatives for 2019, but also we help you automate your back office as well. So you can spend more time on actually talking to donors, or working on your mission, or talking to volunteers, or organizing other fundraising initiatives on your fundraising plan. So what that really means is that, for example, you can customize your donation receipt on CauseVox so that we automatically send one out that's tailored to the donor, that matches what they're donating for, so you don't have to, saving you hours of time. Or if you're doing peer-to-peer fundraising, for example, you can even automate how that works as well, so that you can pre-fill someone's personal page with a lot of content. Then very lastly, if you're looking for an additional tracking analytics, that's something that we offer as well, so you can tie all of your marketing data in one place, or you can shoot your CosVox data to your Constant Contact or your MailChimp or your Salesforce account, for example. So we work in tandem. Now, I showed you a lot today, but the main parts of it is that in 2019 at CosVox, we're going to help you grow your donor acquisition easily as per your fundraising plan, or we can help you convert more donors and make your fundraising efforts more efficient so that you get more donations. And then really lastly, we're going to help you just automate your back office, save a bunch of time so that you can do more with less. If you're looking for more information on CosVox, feel free to go to cosvox.com. We do have an easy way for you to get a demo or to chat with one of our team members to get more information to see if CosVox would be a good fit for your organization. So feel free to go to cosvox.com, click on the upper right-hand side, request a demo, and we'll be happy to schedule a quick call or conversation with you in order to take some next steps. That's all I got today. I just want to hand over back to Noah for some Q&A.
Hey, Rob, thanks so much for wrapping that up and really sharing kind of like how CosVox can come alongside. And I think the other thing that is to point out is a lot of this stuff is new, you know, creating peer-to-peer fundraising events or doing peer-to-peer fundraising, or even thinking well about how your online donation page can help you drive up results or what your donation page should look like. And that's why here at CosVox, we don't only just equip you with those tools, we'll really come alongside with you one-on-one. And so every customer has a dedicated success manager for support, but also for guidance along the way. And because we've been doing this since, or like Rob said, for almost 10 years now, we've seen what works and what doesn't work and can kind of guide you along that process. I know some people already mentioned, you know, we're curious about peer-to-peer. We want to do peer-to-peer, but we just don't know how, or like, how do we recruit people, or what are best practices? And that's really where CosVox's success team comes alongside you and helps you drive those results and helps you feel confident that you are doing it the right way. So I know some questions already came in, and a lot of them I've already answered throughout our time together. But if there are any additional questions, feel free to leave those in the questions pane. I'd be happy to follow up with you one-on-one, or we're going to be sending out a follow-up email that you'll receive this afternoon. And if you have specific questions, just hit reply. You don't have to send a contact email or go to our website. Just hit reply and send me a note, and I'd be happy to answer it or forward it on to Rob if you have questions for Rob. And we can figure out how together we can help you really drive results in 2019. Grateful for everyone's time today. I know we went over a little bit, so I'm grateful for you guys really choosing to make this important. And I think that's the first step to success. And so you're already off to a head start. And so I hope you guys have great success and that we can work together to hit your goals in 2019. So thanks everyone so much. Look for my email in a follow-up, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. See ya.